Hey y'all, this is TCO Gaming, and in this video, I'm going to talk about this past week just a little bit. You're not going to get too much details because I only have a few things that are with me at the moment. But I spent it in Vegas with Gary. His wife Twan and my wife Anna, they had gotten together and they had talked, I believe, last year at CollectCon, might have been at Collectopia, about us possibly coming out to Vegas and visiting them. And we did that. We did that this past week. And it wasn't supposed to be a Pokemon trip, but as you can imagine, me and Gary, if we're talking about something, it's probably going to be Pokemon. And he has Pokemon stuff that's there. You guys have heard about his storage lockers before, and we'll just say that I did get a chance to visit a storage locker. But before we get into all that, I will talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to go over a few cards that were sold. Now, I'm not going to disclose the price on most of these. I am going to disclose the price on two cards, one that's not in the stack and then another that's at the very bottom. I believe many of these were auctioned off, but we had an agreed price between me and the buyer before some of these auctions had ended, and he had already paid for them. And he just said, hey, don't remind me again when you show these in a video of where I overpaid on some of them. So you can imagine some of these did go for more than the auction, but I'm not going to say the price. These were private sales. The one he did want me to talk about, he'd asked about it from the beginning of the deal. But the one card that's not in the stack that I'm going to talk about is the Dark Espeon PSA 10. Somebody was showing me where on eBay it was saying that it sold for $30,000, which is full price. That is not true. It sold for $14,000 on best offer on eBay. So it does show that price on Card Ladder, but it does not show that price on eBay. For whatever reason, it was showing $30K. He sent me a screenshot. I even looked at it on my phone as well. Maybe it's different on desktop. Hopefully they do update that, but that was incorrect. And so if you're using that because you have one as a comp, $14K was the correct comp. But we have a Blossom here. We've got Moltres from Skyridge. All of these, most of the time when I end them on eBay, they have been sold somewhere else. You got Magneton, here's Ninetales, Executor, Espeon, Slowking, Arcanine, and then the Dragonite. This one sold for $60,000, and this one I believe was about $5K over the recent auction that it went through, and so we kind of used that as a baseline. But that one had a really nice swirl in it too, and I don't know. I think someone else they'd come in and they had offered me 55. I told them 65, and then this new buyer come in and said that they would do 60, and the other guy said he didn't want it to 65. So I went ahead and took the 60K offer. All right, next up, bought this right here. Check it out, Legendary Collection theme deck. So inside of here, you're gonna have a display deck of 8. So this comes from Loose Packs. I believe his name is Tyler. He hit me up on Instagram and he said, hey, are you interested in this at this price or a little bit more for trade? And I said, man, that does look nice. When I get back, I'll let you know. I think I am interested, but we can figure it out then. And it's like, I'll just send it to you. And I was like, well, maybe we should figure out the deal first. And he was like, well, I can just get it to you. That way it's waiting for you when you come back. And I looked at it again and I said, he said it was the price was good. It wasn't any tricks. And, I kind of started adding up the individual deck prices. And I thought, it is a pretty decent deal. And this right here is not only a sealed display on the inside, but it's got the original carton on the outside. And everything just looks to be in super nice condition. He said he got it from a master distributor. So that's additional provenance. So like, let's go ahead and do that. And I did consider doing the trade value as well, but for the price, I'd rather just take that. I think the trade value ended up being 25% more than the buy value, and I figure at that point, I could probably just sell off stuff at a higher value for that. But really cool item. Super glad he sent it. It was come in super quick. It was basically waiting for me here once I got back. Now I'm gonna just set that on my shelf back there. Maybe one day we'll use it for a stream since you can get a reverse holo in each one of the decks. You're guaranteed either the Charizard or you got the Dark Blastoise, Dark Raichu, and of course the non-holo variations. But still, most people are trying to open those if they're going to open it up for that reverse holo just to see what they get. But anyways, let's talk about Gary a little bit. So I don't have most of the stuff that I bought. Most of it has been shipped back home, and because of the weight, it was over 300 pounds worth of stuff. In the size and the fact that it was coming from Las Vegas to North Carolina, I chose a slower shipping option, and it saved me about $1,000 just to wait a few extra days. So I'm okay with that. Probably good anyways because I have a lot of catching up to do today because of I just got back from a week-long vacation, and people still buy stuff even when you're on vacation. But anyways, he was going to give these to my kids, and I said, let me just check out the value. I thought there were sealed packs inside because there was sealer wrap around everything. But it's actually a complete sets, A and B, both sides. These are pretty cool. Garbage Pail Kids has had a long run, and I don't know. They're kind of gross. There's not a lot of value to them. He was right, but I wanted to check first before I started giving them to the kids. Here's another thing. Let's see. A little bit of Pokemon here. This might be the only Pokemon thing that I do have. So these are, the vending stickers. Whether or not they were licensed, I highly doubt it. But if you were around during, the early years of Pokemon, you could go to any one of those like quarter machines. Either the push ones or you turned them. Now, if you had the turn ones, these were likely crumpled up in a ball inside of one of those little plastic containers, and then they popped out. And of course, you had a crumpled up sticker, because how else are you going to fit that in a ball? If you had the push machines where you put the quarters in and then you just pushed it, then these might have popped out nice and flat. And I imagine that's where some of these come from. But even though these right here were very likely just considered, complete fakes, they're just stickers with random hollow full patterns on them. And the only reason I say likely is because I don't know for sure. I mean, Pokemon could have sold some kind of licensing agreement to these guys, but with the quality, I really doubt it, but you just never know. Anyways, these actually did hold a bit of value back when I used to sell them. These right here, I would, of course, think these were just completely made up. Like, I mean, look at that Bulbasaur. And then you got a Blissey right there, Noctowl. I mean, you got all kinds of just silly stuff going on in these cards. Look at that Dawn Fan, 720 HP. Now, I've seen this one before. Cool little Mewtwo. But people like these things. And a lot of species collectors will go for stuff like this. A first edition Team Rocket Gyarados. I mean, why not, right? Not a dark Gyarados or anything. I think I gave like $100 for the binder. Which is, I doubt that it's worth that much, but at the same time, I know that just a few of those cards could bring some decent value. Here we have a Dragon Ball Z binder. And the only reason I have these is because these were picked up after I had shipped everything out. And these were done on the last night because we were trying to find a specific item within one of his rooms. And while we were doing that, ran across some of these binders, and I told him I would look through them and try to see if there's any value. And there wasn't a lot of value with this stuff. Like you can see with this one, it's got some dents and stuff on the card, but they still look really cool. And so there is some value still here, but I believe most of these are just like the promo 2 stars. I did not see anything that had like the 6-star rarity or anything like that. But great to look at, great display. Brings back a lot of memories for, not a ton of money. These right here, I knew nothing about Marvel 1999. I started looking up some of these cards. A lot of them are just a couple bucks a piece. But, I mean, this is from 1995, That looks really neat. I mean, what is that? Who is that? Holocaust? Like, I've never even heard of this guy. But at the same time, I mean, that cool little pattern there, and they're all stuck in a binder. Like, it's worth it just to have a binder like this and just go through it. And you can see there's a lot of cards missing. But at the same time, still really neat to look at. Now, when we went to his storage locker, that was a bit of an experience, because so imagine you're in Storage Wars, if you ever seen that show, and you got the gate, the gate rolls back, and then you have all these people that start walking in between. You got 2 aisles of like, one side you have these metal buildings, on the other side you have these metal buildings with the roll-up doors. Basically, that's it. That's pretty much what you're looking at. And we start making our way around. Then we get to a building that has you can go inside. And so you go inside the building, and then it's, a bit more narrow. You have the more narrow hallway, but you still have the roll-up doors, just like from an episode. It was kind of crazy. Then he rolls up the door, and as you can imagine from the way he's talked about how he has all kinds of stuff in these different storage units, it was exactly like that. It was like wall to wall with these just boxes and tubs. And he's like, I don't think I have anything Pokemon in here. Everything of value I've moved to a different storage locker, but you can look anyways. And I start looking around. The very first tub, I hit something Pokemon, and there were several tubs in there that had Pokemon stuff, but it wasn't just Pokemon. There was Yu-Gi-Oh! There were a lot of boxes of Magic, lots of sports cards, and then probably 150 or more different types of trading cards that I had no idea what they were. When he says he collected everything, I believe it. because there was a binder in there for just about everything. And I'm talking like these giant, 50-pound boxes. And then inside of them, you might have, anywhere from 4 big binders to 20 little binders. And then he just had stacks and stacks and stacks and rows over my head in some cases. It was when he says he collected everything, I definitely believe him now, and I can vouch for it because I've seen it with my own eyes. And this was just one of his storage lockers. I think it's the only one he has there. He was telling me about the other storage lockers he has in different cities and different places. But anyways, like, it was so much fun. I went through every single one of those boxes that I could. There might have been a few that I didn't based off of what it said on the outside, like the Funko Pop ones. But I found a lot of stuff there that I brought back, and several tubs I haven't even went through yet. But bought some stuff there, bought a lot of stuff from his house. We were going through a room, just going through everything that I thought might be, worth something for Pokemon. And, we were hammering it out in values and kind of going back and forth. But for the most part, he just let me buy whatever I wanted to, which was super nice of him. He had some uncut sheets there that were Pokemon. I ended up buying 5 of those, I bought 3 Pokemon, 2 Yu-Gi-Oh! And you guys, you might get to see them. A lot of times those are harder to show in a video, but maybe I'll post pictures somewhere on IG. But as that stuff comes in, I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to try my best to show it in a video for you guys to see as well, because a lot of it's really amazing. And like I said, they were the best hosts that we have ever had for our family. Like, when we got there, it wasn't supposed to be about Pokemon. It ended up just being a few days like that. He ended up taking us to see Chumlee. But his wife fed us so much food, more than I could eat. I mean, we left them with plenty of food there. And me and my kids, we eat a lot of food, but we could not eat as much as they were providing. They let us use their car. They gave us 2 rooms to have, 2 bathrooms that we could use. They basically told us to just treat it like it was our own home. And we did. Like, we just felt so welcomed. They were very considerate. Best hosts that we've ever had. Probably, I don't know how you could get any better. I mean, they were just so great to us. Twan, Gary, Akira, all of them. And so definitely made us think about coming back again. And we thought that Vegas was going to be, you hear the Sin City stigma and that kind of stuff, but the people there were so nice. Like, everybody was. Like, we went out during the day, and there wasn't hardly really anybody out during the day. We got to see so many different shows and different things, and we went to different places and saw the scenery. Like, when you get there, it's like, okay, there's nothing green here. It doesn't rain. I couldn't even find drain tubes. That's what I use for shipping uncut sheets at Home Depot. Like, the biggest they had was like a 3-inch flex pipe. I ended up having to buy ABS, which is much thicker, much more expensive, but that was the only way I could get to a 4-inch tube. And so it ended up costing, like, for that and 2 end caps and the hacksaw, it was like $140, where I have a hacksaw here, of course, but I could get what I need to ship home, anything for an uncut sheet, usually under $30. Sometimes as cheap as like $10, here. But we have a lot of water. They hardly ever get rain. And so everything there is like, they don't really have trees. Grass apparently is illegal. And so you have these things that we were just new to. Like, but you still didn't track in dirt anywhere, because while they do have dust, they don't have pollen. They don't have mud or sand. A lot of it's concrete. So it was so interesting seeing how life is being sustained literally in the middle of a desert. And even the weather there, I mean, there was no humidity. It was cooler than it was here. We were like 90. They were like 70, 80 degrees there. They did have one day where it got to 88. But still, it wasn't so bad because there was no humidity. But anyways, Vegas was a lot of fun. Thanks pretty much all in part to Gary. Definitely, I want to say that, we got to visit their church and have a picnic lunch there. That was a lot of fun. We ended up doing like a water balloon toss. They fixed food for free. It was very welcoming. We weren't expecting that, and it was complete opposite of what we had anticipated. And so I don't know. I could see us going back again just to visit, and it was just so easy because of, first off, their consideration for our family taking us in. But anyways, I know you guys probably want to hear more about the stuff that I picked up, the Pokemon cool items, because I was really intrigued with some of the boxes and binders that he had. I'll try to show you guys some of the best stuff once it does come in. Like I said, it was over 300 pounds worth of stuff. There were a lot of boxes between 30 and I think the heaviest was 65 pounds using Home Depot boxes. But guys, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me ramble. If you have questions about anything, feel free to ask.